What dumb rule did you have at your school? My middle school/elementary school didn't allow locks on lockers because we were a school of trust. I'm still not over getting my gel pen stolen. No police, we are a country of trust. We weren't allowed to wear t-shirts with Bart Simpson on them because he was glorifying being a troublemaker and underachiever. This was in the 90s. I remember in the 90s, parents who wouldn't let their kids watch The Simpsons because they thought it was a bad influence. Compare that to TV today, and wow. I see you have met my mother. We used to have this thing called tardy tank, meaning when the final bell rang for class, teachers were instructed to lock the doors and not let anybody in. Whoever didn't make it into the room in time was sent to a detention room for tardy tank and then was released when the next bell rang. This was so counterproductive, like who the fuck thinks hey let's punish kids for being late to class by making them miss the whole class? Absolutely pathetic. I'm the attendance clerk/tech at a high school of about 250 kids. This year our district has a big focus on attendance and reducing absences and tardies and whatever. I'm the guy who runs the report to find out who meets the requirement for ISS on a weekly basis, among other things. TL, Doctor, sometimes teachers don't know what they want, sometimes admins listen to dumb requests for implementation to show why it's a terrible idea. The middle schools in my town banned the color red because it was associated with gangs. Every other color, including blue, was okay though. So basically the village? Careful, you are drawing with the bad color. Our version of detention was called a jug, justice under God. If you were lucky you got to do cleaning around the school and were done pretty quickly. If not, you had to sit in a classroom and write out the long subtraction math from 200 to 0, subtracting 2 and adding 1, 200 to 2 equals 198 plus 1 equals 199, all the way to 0. This would easily take an hour or more and no talking was allowed. Truly terrible. Follow up, looks like a number of men for others scrolling through Reddit. Yes, this was Rockhurst High School in Kansas City, Missouri. Loved every second as it was a great education, and only after I graduated did I realize how many life skills they instilled. Wow. That is crazy. Never heard of this before. I just timed myself getting to 190 though, and it was about 1 minute. So the whole thing would take about 20 minutes. Guys' hair could not touch eyebrows, ears, or collars. Girls no pants, skirts or dresses had to come within 2 inches of their knees when kneeling on the floor. Everyone no jeans, shorts, or t-shirts. If you were ever in a fight and actually defended yourself, you faced the same punishment as the person who started it. I always thought it was dumb because the American legal system can set you free of charge based on self-defense, so why not the schools? Then again, the American legal system is broken. We had to buy our uniform shirts from the school. They checked this by having giant embroidered logos on the shirts. This wouldn't be a problem if the shirts weren't such awful quality. And overpriced. Eventually they started selling patches that you could put on shirts bought elsewhere, but the damage was already done for people whose parents already spend their clothes budget on the shitty school shirts. I go to a private school, sitting in class as I type this. The uniform policy has some strange and conflicting rules. Only a certain kind of pants can be worn and they have to be black. Shirts can only be white, black, or green, and you cannot put up the hood on your jacket or hoodie while on campus. Thing is, uniforms are sold by only one store, and not only do they do the same shirt logo thing, but they also sell clothes that are not required, and they sell hotties and jackets with the school's name on them. There seems to be only one person who cares about the pants rule though. I was told by this person to wear different pants yesterday, and I have had to change pants during school because they were the wrong color before. However, I have worn a shirt of the right color but without the logo before, and no one noticed. There are other things about the dress code that I hate, but I don't want to type for all day. We had to get all of our uniform stuff from the school shop. Was a private Catholic school but my family was not well off. When winter rolled around, we couldn't afford the $180 school jumper, but my mom had an old netball jumper with almost the same colors and patterns, so I wore that. The teachers were quick to realize that I wasn't wearing the right jumper. A couple of them tried to confiscate it off me. A couple other teachers had more sympathy and told me to take it off and hide it when certain teachers were around. But there were definitely a few there who would have rather seen me freeze than wear an almost identical jumper. If you were late to a class, even if just by 5 seconds, you got a tardy. 5 tardies in one class over the course of 9 weeks led to a detention. If you were 10 minutes late to a class, it was an unexcused absence, and 3 of those led to a detention. The end result of these 2 rules? No one was ever 1 minute late to class. If you were running late, you would take your time, go to the bathroom, stop by your locker, have a snack, and do whatever else you needed/wanted before getting to class 9 minutes late. Avoid the unexcused absence while still counting as a tardy. Most of my teachers were pretty chill if someone was a couple minutes late. Usually never an issue. But my senior year they made a rule where teachers locked the door at the bell and you had to go get a tardy slip from the office to be let back in. I wasn't about to start getting detention or something, so I'd just go home. I had 2 classes, and I could do both online. How they gonna say I didn't come to school if I have all the work done? Simply a stipulation that I needed to actually attend. I've written this before, but my high school had a stupid rule. For every minute you were late you had to do 2 minutes of in-school detention. One day I was late 1 minute. So I had to do 2 minutes of detention. However, the school started the clock on being late at the first bell, also known as the warning bell. After first bell students had 5 minutes to get to homeroom. The first bell rang. I walked in a minute late. I was told I had to do 2 minutes of detention. I asked when. I was told immediately. I went from the main office to the detention room next door, did my 2 minutes, and then went to homeroom. I arrived at homeroom before the late bell. When signing out of the detention room, you had to put down what you learned. I wrote down nothing. I should have written down petty tyrants don't understand the purpose of rules and how to administer them. No hats or scarves in a building where the heating didn't work. We had the opposite. We were not allowed to take our blazers, I'm British so blazers are part of the uniform, off without permission at certain times of the year. There'd be a day in the summer when blazers were announced as no longer compulsory, but if there was a random warm day before this, you'd have to ask a teacher if you could take it off. Getting caught without it on in the corridors between lessons or at lunch was also a massive deal. If I'm hot I shouldn't have to wear a blazer? We had 20-minute breaks at about 10 a.m. and 40-minute lunch breaks at about 12 p.m. On the first break you could only drink water or eat fruit. If you ate or drank anything else? Detention. After school. For an hour, until they introduced 30-minute after-school detentions due to parent complaints. My school gave you an hour detention for every class you missed. I had back-to-back study halls that overlapped lunch one semester of my senior year and had hundreds of hours of detention because I skipped them almost every day. I didn't go to 1 minute of detention and then like 3 days before graduation they were like, bro, you can't graduate without standing detention. So I asked the principal if it would be cool if I got evidence of performing community service in a number of hours equal to the number of hours of detention I had, and he said sure. So a buddy who had graduated the year before who was working part-time for the Parks and Rec department wrote me up a nice letter on their letterhead saying that I had done community service and I graduated. The principal lived down the street from me, and a week after graduation he came over and was like, bro, you are so full of shit, but I don't really have any legal authority to keep you from graduating for skipping study hall. So if you're gonna pull stunts like that in the future, don't make them so obviously fake. Subscribe to our channel if you liked our videos. Hit the notification bell to get notified.